Vance, just a few months away now. The latest polling from Ohio in the Senate race there. This is for Rob Portman's seat that he is vacating. So this would be a place that Republicans would want to hold, obviously. That seat is tighter than expected, with Democrat candidate Tim Ryan in a virtual dead heat when you look at the margin of error in this poll against GOP candidate J.D. Vance. Fox News Power Rankings has this race as likely R. In a state where the majority of Buckeye voters turned out for President Trump and Republicans in the last few election cycles. Ohio has been increasingly solid red over the course of those last elections. So with that, we bring in Republican Senate candidate J.D. Vance of Ohio. And we should note that we've also asked Tim Ryan to appear. We look forward to having him on as well. J.D. Vance, welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Marine. Successful businessman, author of Hillbilly Elegy, which was, one of the biggest books of the last several years. So you run for Senate. You decide to run in your home state of Ohio. And now it looks like this race, which, as I said, would be a Republican hold, is getting pretty tight. What's going on out there?
Well, first of all, you have to remember the polls in 2020 said Trump would lose in Ohio, and he won by 8 points, and the polls have us as ahead. But I try not to judge by the polls too much. I think at the end of the day, the race is about Joe Biden's inflationary policies that have made it harder for people to live a good life. And Tim Ryan has unfortunately gone along with those policies 100%. We don't need a rubber stamp for Joe Biden. We need somebody to actually push back against what's going on in Washington. And I think when the terms of that debate are set, we're going to win, and we're going to win convincingly.
Obviously, there's been some focus on these Jan 6 hearings. President Trump very loudly endorsed you. It's said to have made a big difference in your breakout in that primary. Do you think that there are some moderate voters in Ohio who might be looking at that and wondering about whether or not they should support you?
Sure. I think there's some people who are looking at the January 6th hearings and are very worried about it. But at the end of the day, most voters are worried about the fact that they can't afford gas, that they can't afford the basic necessities, that life has gotten worse under Joe Biden. And I think that most of the people who are paying attention to the January 6th hearings are not really paying attention to the ground in Ohio where life has gotten worse for most people. And I think because of that, the issues are going to be about kitchen table issues, right? Is your life getting better? Is it easier to put basic necessities on the table? That's a debate we're going to win.
Yeah, it's interesting. We showed a clip before of Tim Ryan being asked, do you want Joe Biden to campaign with you? And he goes, completely deer in the headlights at this question.
Sure.
So, that raises, and it's interesting because he's clearly distancing himself from the president right now. He's also talking about tax cuts for the middle class.
Yeah.
He's moving into your territory when it comes to how to handle this inflation.
Well, he's trying to, right? He plays a moderate on his TV commercials, but he plays a radical when he's in Washington, D.C., representing the people of Youngstown. So that really is the debate in this race, is whether Tim Ryan can pretend to be somebody that his record shows he's clearly not. I think it's funny that he's running away from Joe Biden. Of course, if I was a Democrat, I'd be running away from Joe Biden right now, too.
So when you look at the most important issues to Ohio voters, economy, gas prices, which we've talked about. But number 3 is abortion rights. And I think that's another area where you're going to have to show people where you stand against Tim Ryan, who is saying that he believes in choice. Now, that's going to get some moderate voters, maybe even more so moderate women voters, who might be looking at this SCOTUS decision and not be so sure about where you stand, which is where exactly when it comes to rape and incest?
Yeah, so look, I'm 100% pro-life. I campaign that way. That's how I actually feel in my heart, and that's important. I will say, as much as, look, people may disagree with me. There are people who are more moderate, let's say, on the abortion issue. But we can have an argument. We can have a debate. We can try to identify ways to make it easier for young women to bring successful and happy children into the world. Where Tim Ryan is so different from where even 90% of Ohio voters are. He's defended abortion up to 40 weeks. So yes, let's have a debate. Like I said, I'm 100% pro-life, but it's one thing to be pro-choice and another thing to defend abortion up to 40 weeks. That's so radical and so out of touch. I don't think that the voters of Ohio are going to stand for it.
So where do you think that line should be? I would imagine, that's going to come up in a debate. Where do you think that line should be in Ohio? Because really what's going to happen with the Supreme Court decision, if it goes the way it leaked, is not that it's going to ban abortion across the country. is going to move it back to the states and allow them to decide. So you're from Ohio. Where do you think that line should be?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So what Roe versus Wade would do would not ban abortion nationwide. It would make it a state's issue where we figure this out on a state-by-state level. And look, I'm in Ohio. I'm running to represent in the federal legislature. But if I'm in the state of Ohio, what I'm saying is, look, we need to make it easier for young women to bring children into the world. We need to protect the rights of the unborn, yes, even from the moment of conception. But at the end of the day, so much of what the abortion debate has done to this country, I think, is it's taught us as both moms and dads, I'm the father of 3 young kids, to see babies as inconveniences to be discarded. And I think we have an opportunity, whatever the Supreme Court does on Roe, to really redefine the terms of the debate and to think of children as blessings, to be cherished and to be nurtured and to be welcomed. That's what we have to do as conservatives when this abortion fight takes its next step.
Yeah, I know you're going to be asked this in a debate, and I don't mean to belabor this issue
Please.
because there's obviously the inflation issue and economy is bigger. But in terms of rape and incest, do you have an exception for that or no?
Look, I'm like I said, I'm 100% pro-life, and I think that if you look at where most abortions are happening, they're not happening in the edge cases. They're incredibly tragic, they're incredibly terrible, but most of the abortion debate in this country is abortions of choice, abortions of convenience, and I think that's where we should focus because that's where the policy is actually happening.
Okay. This is not your race. This is Missouri, but this ad is getting a bit of attention. It's a web ad, I believe. I don't think it's on TV, from Eric Greitens, who's running in Missouri. And Josh Hawley came out on the backside of this ad and has put his support. He's endorsing Vicky Hartzler in this race. But let's take a look at it. I'm just curious because it speaks to the tenor of politics in this country right now, and I want to see what you think. Let's watch.
Join the MAGA crew. Get a rhino hunting permit. There's no bagging limit, no tagging limit, and it doesn't expire until we save our country.
What do you think?
Well, Josh Hawley's a very good friend of mine. I think that so much of political advertisement, look, I've run my own political advertisements in this campaign. You're trying to grab headlines a little bit. You're trying to do something that's a little bit unorthodox. So at the end of the day, I think that what Greitens is trying to go after is, look, a lot of our voters, a lot of our base, very frustrated with sending Republicans to Washington who don't do anything. I'm not going to comment on the Missouri race because it's not my race and it's not my state. But I'm not surprised.
He's going into a house with a gun and saying they want to bag as many rhinos as they possibly can. Do you think that's a good place to go, given all the violence that we are seeing in the country right now?
Look, like I said, a friend of Josh Hawley. I don't think Eric Greitens is saying that he wants to murder a bunch of people. I think it's clearly a television advertisement meant for effect. We should take it like that.
Okay. Last thought. In terms of Tim Ryan and in terms of the economy, are you going to also be backing middle-class tax cuts? I mean, this is also going to be on this debate stage. And do you believe that he's behind that idea in a sincere way?
No, of course not.
The president talked about corporate tax hikes today and taxing the rich more.
Exactly. Look, I'm pro-middle-class tax cuts. I am pro-tax cuts. I've supported tax cuts when they were being debated. He has opposed every single effort to cut the taxes of the middle class. So he's running away from his record again. And at the end of the day, we have to fix the fundamentals of this Joe Biden economy. That is where we really have to do the work, not with gimmicks from a guy who's never supported a real tax cut in his life.
All right. As I said, we've invited Tim Ryan to come as well. J.D. Vance, very good to have you. Thanks for stopping by. Hope to see you again soon. It's going to be an interesting race to watch. Thank you, sir. So